Hey,
Hello,
Nate.
Tammy.
So I forgot nervous there for a second. I'm like, oh my gosh, did my headphones go out? Because I didn't hear the music start right away.
Yeah, no,
And
that was
then,
me. I was doing too many things at once, and
yeah.
then I realized the countdown timer stopped. I'm like, oh crap, I have to go play the music.
we're too distracted tonight. It's
Yeah,
an
well,
odd.
it's
We're a
a
little
weird
off.
night.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a weird night because it's a Saturday instead of a Monday. So we've already got videos in chat like, hey, what? It's Saturday. What are we doing?
We're just kind of keeping you guys on your toes. Keeping you on your
Yeah.
toes.
No, really, Monday I'll be on an airplane, and it's hard to record a podcast on an airplane. So
Yeah, I think that would be kind of hard with maybe if you paid for Wi-Fi, maybe we could do it. I don't know.
I don't think so. No, in my experience, airplane Wi-Fi is never good enough.
Yeah.
Late April Fool's joke. Yeah, surprise! This is actually not a show.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yep. Have a good night. Oh,
So
so I
we
got
got
my
we got
grill, my Jeep grill. I told everyone that, right? And did I share that there's a Jeep
yeah.
Mama code?
You mentioned Under the Sun inserts
Yeah.
last time you were last time
Yeah.
we recorded. Yep.
Okay. And then there's a 15% off discount code. Just put in Jeep Mama.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So they have other stuff there. They're out there on the East Coast. So pretty much that's been my couple of weeks.
What was the code? Jeep Mama? I'll throw it in the
Yeah, JEEP space MOMMA.
space in a
15% off.
promo code. Wow.
Well, that's
Fancy.
how she typed it. So if
We're gonna hope it
the
works.
space doesn't work, just
Maybe
put it
try
all in
without
one.
the space if it doesn't.
Yeah. So and then I got a little allergy thingy mabob. So I'm talking kind of weird.
I think your dentist got you sick.
Yes, I believe.
You should always blame the dentist. No one likes
Yes.
dentists.
I don't. I hate the dentist.
If you find someone who says like I love going to the dentist, then steer clear of that person. There's something
Yes,
wrong with
they're
them.
crazy.
Now there's gonna be somebody writes in. I love the dentist. I'm sorry, you're insane.
So I mean, being that it's a little early, but did you get any work done are we taking work away from the
Well,
Jeep?
so being in my 40s, I have lower back problems, right?
Mhm.
So last weekend, I should say, I'm like, I'm going to work on the Dana 60 this weekend. And then I woke up with like severe back pain. So I had to take the weekend to try to fix that. And then this week I had to work on stretching and whatever. And that seems to have helped. So today we had some yard work to do. And then after that, I did get some work done on the Dana 60. Although I wasn't able to get as much work as I wanted to get done because
Right.
my back started hurting again.
Yeah, I get that.
These things are freaking heavy. So yeah,
So do you have them on like jack stands or how are you?
So
'Cause
I
you're
currently have
limited space in your garage, right?
yeah, I currently have 3 axles. One of them is basically just a housing, and then the other 2 are mostly complete. So I had a kingpin front Dana 60 that was just like it didn't have any outer knuckles, it didn't have any axle shafts, it didn't have any steering linkage, it didn't have any brake hardware. I mean, like all that stuff was missing. It was basically a housing that someone had started building, and then I don't know if they gave up or they sold it or moved directions. I don't know, but it's basically empty. So that's what I still have that one. And I had that sitting on sort of like a pile of Dana 60s that I have in my shop right now. And the Ford Super Duty Dana 60, which is the one I'm going to actually put in the Jeep, was underneath it. So today I had to pull that one, the housing, off the top of the pile, which is it's empty enough that I'm able to move that around without like a hoist or whatever.
Right.
But the Ford Super Duty one is still mostly complete. I only took off came with its control arms and stuff. I took those off. I took off the brakes because they're pretty heavy, but all the shafts and the internals and the hubs and all that are still on it. So I don't know what these things weigh, but it ain't light. I had to pick it up with my engine hoist. in order to get it like up so I could put the jack stands under it. But I got that done. I got the steering pulled off of it. I got a couple other miscellaneous brackets off, and then I had to call it quits for the day because I was too sore after moving the other axle housing and then moving that one. So, but yeah, I got started, and I'm hoping that next time I get some garage time, it'll be strip the rest of the stuff off to make it a little lighter. And then there's a ton of work that has to be done cutting off old brackets that came with it from its original application, right? Like the control arm brackets or radius arm brackets, I should say. And there's all kinds of like things that are cast into the housing that have to come off. I basically have to get it down to a bare Dana 60, and then I can put the truss on it that I bought. So a lot of work ahead of me.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it.
Yeah.
So I'm
But
just
if
warning you. Oh,
if
I was just
anybody wants a Kingpin Dana 60 housing that's mostly empty, let me know. I'm going to sell it for like 150, 200 bucks, I'm thinking. So reach out if you're interested. If not, it's going to end up on like Facebook Marketplace or something.
So it's super windy here in Wyoming, and you keep pausing on me. So I don't know if my internet is being weird. So just keep the show going if I go away.
I have not. I haven't seen any issues.
Okay.
But folks watching the stream, if you see anything intermittent from me, let me know. That way we'll know it's not just Tammy.
So yeah, we're in a high wind warning. It's like hurricane winds out there. Not really, but
that's
anyway.
okay. Apparently on Monday when there's the solar eclipse, the world's going to end or something.
Yes.
So, just don't worry about it.
I saw one of my Jeep friends posted he's going to buy 100 of those blow up dolls, and he's going to fill them with helium. And right during the eclipse, he's going to release them so people think, God is coming down.
People are being raptured.
Yes. That just cracked me up. Yeah.
I think it's hilarious how people will assign end of world times to any weird event nowadays. It's like, a solar eclipse. We had the same thing happen in 2017 and the world didn't end then.
Right. I was going to say, didn't we just have one of these? So
why is this one different? I don't know.
Crazy.
So strange.
Yes.
But at any rate, yeah.
Well, folks, remember we are we didn't say this. We're the Off-Road Insiders Podcast, Off-Road Insiders Podcast. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, Off-Road Insiders, all one word. And you can check out our website, offroadinsiders.com, and that will give you links to everything, our email address. If you have any ideas that you want us to talk about, share us an email. Send pictures of your Jeep, and we can share it on our podcast and welcome you. So anyway, that's where we are on the internet.
Yeah, we've said it before. We want this show to be a lot more community focused. So if you know someone in the community who you think should be highlighted on the show, might want to talk to us. If you yourself want to talk to us, let us know. I mean, we're always open to having more conversations with more folks. We want people to get out there and see what's what's out there. Yeah.
Right. All the community. And that's what the off-road is all about. It's a big community. We may make digs, Toyota guys may make digs at Jeepers and vice versa. And but it's just all in fun, and we all love this sport and our vehicles. So
except those Honda Ridgeline owners.
Yeah. Or those monster Prius trucks.
So funny you should bring up an electric vehicle, right? So in the community corner today, I came across this video like, I don't know, a week or two ago, and I thought this would be perfect to talk about in the community corner. And then the second part of the video came out just a day or two ago. The video comes from the Maris Adventure Park in Texas. Apparently, they had a customer come out. They have campsites that are like right over this canyon. They say it's the second deepest canyon in the United States, I think they said.
Wow.
Yeah. And they have campsites that are around the rim. Well, this guy parked his 4xe, like, I don't know if he pulled up and was just stunned by the view because it was one heck of a view. So I assume the vehicle was like facing the cliff, and he got out. And I do not know exactly how it happened, but the Jeep rolled off the cliff.
Oh my God, that would be devastating.
Luckily, nobody was in it. He was alone. There were no like family or whatever in the Jeep.
Right.
I'm speculating in my head because it's a 4xe. Like, did he park it and then the engine shut off because everything like 2018 and up, the JLs have that auto stop feature where when you stop it, the engine turns off. And did he just sort of lose track because
And not put it in park?
like engine's off, my Jeep must be off, and then he got out and then it rolled away because it wasn't actually in park? I don't know, right? Speculation on my part. But again, right, 4xe has that big battery pack in it, lithium ion batteries, you know, the big scary boogie monster. So they were worried, is the thing going to catch fire while it's down there, right? So there were all these concerns. They actually hiked down the side of the ravine to get to the Jeep so they could inspect it to make sure it wasn't about to like explode or something.
Interesting. Yeah.
And they determined that the battery pack seemed like it was intact and that wasn't going to be a problem, but they still had to figure out how in the hell are they going to get this thing out of the canyon. And the second video is all about the recovery, how they pulled it out. Now, of course, the Jeep is destroyed. It's not like they recovered it for the guy's sake. They recovered it because they can't leave a Jeep at the bottom of the canyon,
with gas and oil and all that.
But
stuff. Well, no, there's probably not gas in it, right? It's 4xe.
Well, there would be gas in it because they're hybrid.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, and there would be oil still because it's still a regular.
Yeah, engine. It still has. I think it has the little four-cylinder turbo engine. But anyway, yeah, they got it out. So if you're interested and curious about, you know, this thing, I've linked both videos. They'll be in the notes of the show. But yeah, check it out. It's crazy the way they had to get this thing out. You would have expected them to bring in a helicopter or something. Right. They did it with off-road vehicles with winches.
Huh.
I mean, like 7 or 8 of them, but still, they rigged up 3 separate winch lines to the vehicle that were powered by, I guess they weren't separate winch lines. There was like a total of, I think, 3, 4, 5, 7 Jeeps that were winching at the same time. And then the other vehicles were used as anchor vehicles to keep those from like sliding forward as they were trying to winch.
Right.
And yeah, they would just all winch at the same time. And they had them like, these 3 went to a single strap that went down to the vehicle. These 2 went to another strap that went down to the vehicle. And these 2 went to another one. It was really cool to see how they did it. At one point, one of the straps broke while they were recovering the thing. So luckily they had the other 2.
Oh, no.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Total chaos. But they did a great job. No one got hurt. They got the Jeep out safely. I was pretty impressed with the skills that they demonstrated there. Apparently, they do recovery courses there. Like they do off-road training and stuff. So this isn't like just a bunch of yahoos that are like, oh, let's get the Jeep out of the canyon. They're actually trained professionals. So, or whatever you consider a professional in this field.
Right.
So, but yeah, I thought it was pretty cool to watch.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see the ingenuity they used. But yeah, so that's the community corner.
Well, tonight's main topic, we're going to get specific on off-road vehicles, and we're going to look into the history of Jeep, where it all started. And I think what prompted me with this idea is a while back.
Uh-oh. Just lost Tammy.
Salespeople.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
You cut out there. All right, go ahead. Continue. You're back.
Oh, so
talk quickly though.
Yeah. So when I was working at Jeep, the salespeople can take classes and they can become experts. Like you can become an expert at Dodge or Ram or whatever, and you can become an expert of Jeep or Mopar. So anyway, I decided to take the Jeep class, and they gave kind of a little history.
What made you decide to do that?
Pardon?
What made you decide to take the Jeep class?
Because totally I wanted the little pin.
No, I know. I'm kidding.
I left before I could get it. Anyway, it's probably still sitting there in Minnesota.
It's sitting there in Tammy's inbox in the parts center.
So I should call My sister could go pick it up. So anyway, I did a blog post on this, on the history of Jeep and how Jeep became, the Willys MB. And I got a comment like, "Oh, that's not right. They, Bantam is the one who," and they were very passionate about Bantam is the one who did it. But it's a very kind of, it's a quagmire, if that's the right word. It's very,
Yeah.
there's a lot of hands in the pot for the beginnings of Jeep. And I thought it would be cool for us to talk about it so everyone can kind of get a feel for it. It wasn't just one car company, or it
Yeah.
wasn't just
So
this or that.
so before I started going to the Bantam Heritage Jeep Festival, which happens here in PA every year, I always thought that Willis Overland was the creator
Correct.
of the what we know as the military Jeep. But it turns out that, at least according to their history books, um, the Bantam Car Company had the initial design, the original design for, like, there. It was actually the U.S. government had bid to U.S. car companies to make a reconnaissance vehicle for World War II, and a number of car companies created a prototype and submitted them, and Bantam was the one that won that round, right? But where it gets weird is Bantam was a very small car company, and the US government said, we like your design, but we don't think you can actually make enough vehicles. So they basically
Right.
took their design and gave it to Willis Overland and Ford and said, hey, you two bigger auto manufacturers, we want you to take these designs, improve on them if you think you need to, and give us prototypes. And that's basically how Willis Overland got the contract. And that's why there's Ford GPWs as well, right?
Correct.
Because then after that was accepted, it was the Willis Overland design that was accepted. Then that was given back to Bantam, Willis Overland, and Ford to produce vehicles. Bantam apparently only made a handful, and then were shifted to making utility trailers for the war. And then Willis Overland and Ford continued making the Jeep that we know it for the war.
So it's funny because Bantam's website says they invented the original Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Willis Overland, where is it? Um, they're the ones who got the trademark. I think it's trademark for Jeep, the word Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but see, what I read on Wikipedia in Jeep, it said that only 2 companies responded to the military's call, because they contracted 135 companies to work on the prototype, and so only Bantam and Willis Overland. And from what I gather, the Army also turned down Bantam's initial request, not only because they probably couldn't manufacture them, but they wanted a certain criteria for the engine torque. And so then that's when it gets kind of muddled too, because you got Ford came involved, because Ford could manufacture. They had the facilities to mass manufacture. Um,
So in the Wikipedia article, which is one of the links we're going to include in the show notes, it says that yes, 135 companies were, so the Army contracted 135 companies to create working prototypes. Only 2 companies responded. Those
right,
2 were American Bantam Car Company and Willis Overland. The Army set a almost impossible deadline of 49
correct,
days to supply a working prototype,
right,
not just a design, a prototype, right? So that implies a working vehicle, right?
right. And
And Willis Overland said, "Can we have more time?"
nope, sorry, you
And
can't.
the U.S. military was like, "Nope." So that's how Bantam got the first design in, because Willis Overland was essentially, they said they couldn't do it in time. That's what it sounds like anyway, according to what I'm
Correct.
reading here.
And there were 3 different designs that the final Jeep was based upon, and that
Yep.
was the Ford. They called theirs the Pygmy,
Yep.
and I think we have a picture of that. Here's the Pygmy.
Yep. There was the Ford Pygmy, the Willys Quad,
which is right there. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can see the picture. And then you have the Bantam.
Yep.
The some say it's the BRC, and I've also read it's called the Bantam Blitz.
Okay.
Um,
The Bantam Heritage folks say the first one was the Bantam Reconnaissance Car,
yeah. And I found somewhere, and
which
I
is the
think the
BRC.
Bantam Blitz is from that Jeep class I took, and I wish I would have saved because I printed out. It was like a PowerPoint that had videos and it had information, and I wish I would have printed out what Jeep said, but I want to say Jeep called it the Bantam Blitz.
There was a mention here of vehicles that came out shortly after the award
Yeah,
was, the contract was awarded. I'm trying to see if the Bantam
yeah.
Blitz
If you
was mentioned
scroll,
there.
yeah, Bantam Blitz is not mentioned in any of those. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
nothing.
Bantam did produce like 2,000 or something like that.
Yep.
Of their BRCs. Some of them went to Russia, and some of them went to Britain, I wanna say. Um, I just the whole thing is I'm sure there's a lot more that we don't know
Yeah, I
about.
mean the funny thing about all of this is that it happened during wartime and it happened under tight deadlines and it happened
Correct,
under the US government, which is able to take certain royalties or liberties that a normal private car company can't, right?
correct.
So the fact that Bantam Car Company made a design, gave it to the government, and the government's like, "Here, other car companies, we want you to look at this too." Under normal circumstances, that would never have happened. It would
No,
have
especially
been
not nowadays.
protected. It would have been protected, and Bantam would have been like, "No, no, you can't give that to other car companies. That's our design." Right? Well, not in wartime.
So I found another a quote from it's Lieutenant E.P. Hogan of the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps. He wrote, "Credit for the original design of the Army's truck quarter-ton 4x4 may not be claimed by any single individual or manufacturer." So I find that interesting. So I think a lot of people had a hand in the Willys MB, and they even said the idea came from the infantry guys. Like, we need something
Right.
lightweight that's gonna be able to get
Well,
through this terrain.
if you think about it, that's the right way to design a war vehicle. You go to the soldiers and say, "What do you need?" And they come up with probably a bunch of demands that are maybe impossible to meet, but you sift through those and come up with the ones that are actually reasonable, and then you make that.
You cut out, so I missed what you said, but
Oh, I was just saying that that's the right way to design anything. Ask the
yeah,
people that are going to use it, and then they're going to make
correct,
all kinds of requests, and then
correct.
you sift through and find the stuff that actually makes sense and build that.
So, I mentioned earlier about the engine. The Army wasn't too pleased with Bantam's engine, so they went with the
Yeah.
Willis Overland. I think they called it the Go Devil, 'cause they wanted torque to be able to,
Yep.
crawl
Yeah,
through
I
that
read that.
terrain.
I read that too. That it came down to the engine had to have enough torque and enough
Mhm.
horsepower to do the things that they wanted it to do, which is cool.
And the other thing with all these hands involved, Spicer was also involved. Spicer did whatever they do at the
So
time for parts.
Spicer to this day is a large manufacturer of things like bearings and
Mhm.
axles and drivetrains, drivetrain pieces and shafts and whatever. And I think one of the articles I read said that that's basically what they did for the early Jeeps was they were essentially the drivetrain uh,
Correct.
company. What's the word I'm looking for? Provider.
Provider, yeah. So, last summer, yeah, I took my son to Yellowstone, and as you drive up from Cheyenne to Yellowstone, we went through now I can't think of the name of the town, but it's the military museum, military
Oh, Tammy broke up again. Talking about the middle.
tanks.
Oh, there you are again.
Oh, this guy
You need to find your landlord and make them kick the
Jeeps.
Wi-Fi.
I'm hooked directly to the internet.
Oh, there you are again.
Yeah. I
Okay.
I should just let you talk. Anyway,
Blame the wind. Well,
um,
no, you've got a bunch of info here that I don't necessarily have, right?
yeah. So
I've got what I've learned from the Bantam stuff, and then what I've pieced together over the years. You've actually seems like you've done a lot more in depth stuff here, plus that training that you had, right? So that's cool.
yeah. Oh, it's Du Bois, Iowa. It's the National Museum of Military Vehicles, and th- a lot of these original military Jeeps are in this museum, and it's a beautiful museum. If anybody ever gets a chance to go up there. So there's some pictures on my Facebook page. I should really write more of a blog post on this too, but I'm gonna whoops.
There you go.
So here is the Bantam BCR, and I know this guy is a fanatic military, so he has the amount of information that he has is amazing. But you see here, he has the original Jeep.
Yeah.
Um, so
I saw one of these at the Bantam Heritage Festival as well,
yeah,
and it's pretty cool. The first run, the grill, the iconic grill that we've all come to love, and even the grill that you expect to see on the military era Jeeps. Um, Bantam didn't have the ability to stamp the grill, right? To make a stamped or pressed metal grill. So they actually have this welded bar stock thing that's the grill. So that was essentially the original 7 slot grill, but it wasn't 7 slots.
it was 9.
It was a
Wasn't
bunch
it
more.
9?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
forget. I didn't get a chance to count them, but it was not 7.
So interesting. Talking about the stamped grill, I remember. I think I just cut out again.
Oh, now you're back.
Yeah. I think Ford is the one who started the stamped grill because they had um, the equipment to do that. And here, this Jeep here, this is the Willys MA. So this was just the little plaque that was
Mhm.
by all these Jeeps. So, and you would be amazed at all the different military Jeeps during that time. I mean, we could have
And
20 shows on it,
the
on all these different vehicles.
the really interesting stuff, I think anyway, is when you start getting into all of the modified applications for these things. There were Jeeps that were retrofitted as ambulances.
Mhm.
There were Jeeps that were retrofitted as troop transports. You know, the ones that had like space in the back for 6 or 8
Yeah,
people, right? Where they had extended it and put those long bench seats in. Um, there were, and then I mean, once these came into civilian use, they were essentially farm tractors. Like they
correct.
were sold to civilians as farm tractors.
Yeah, because some of them have. Because Terry Gillette, he runs, and he is officially a nonprofit now, the Jeep Rescue League. It's in Saguache, Colorado, Southern Colorado. I've done videos on him. I've done blog posts. I've met him. He has some of these Jeeps too, and he has a bunch of history as well with these Jeeps. And these Jeeps had like hitch type things in the front to be able to put some of this stuff on. Um, anyway,
Oh, Tammy went quiet again. Let's see if she comes back. I'm gonna have a great time editing this show later.
I know I'm so sorry. I
No, it's
think the
okay.
wind. I live on the 4th floor, and the internet cables just kind of flow in the wind as the wind is
Yeah,
blowing on my building. Um,
you have to call
so
your cable company tomorrow.
yeah, I want a refund.
Whenever the wind blew, my cable went out.
So
Don't you know how important I am?
yeah,
I'm
I
a
do
podcast
too.
host.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
But yeah, the other thing that I found out from Terry is, and if you might see this in some pictures, is they needed more airflow in the Jeeps. And so the guys on the ground would cut the 7 slots to
Yeah, I
make
have
a
seen
bigger
those
opening.
where
Yeah.
you'd see like 2 or 3 of them missing, like every
Yes.
other one or something. Yeah, I've
And
seen
so
that.
that was their way to get more airflow in the Jeeps.
Yeah, well, it makes
They
sense.
the guys on the ground did make a lot of modifications. They were the first to start Jeep modifications back in the day.
Isn't that the same problem that the Cherokee had?
Yeah.
Terrible airflow.
Yeah, it is.
Some things never change, right?
So
But yeah, I
anyway, if
mean,
anyone ever
there's
argues with you about the original Jeep, there was a lot of hands in the pot.
yeah, just tell them nobody really knows.
Right.
Because people will be wont to argue on the internet, right?
Yeah, they always do, right? It's
So, but yeah, I mean, having seen the the show out at the Bantam Heritage Festival, I mean, you can see these things in person. You can see these things that were built before Jeeps ever existed, and you can see that heritage in them. So, if anyone says Bantam didn't design it, I think they're
I think that design,
misinformed.
the original design was probably for sure Bantam, based on
Yeah,
the ideas of the infantrymen,
yeah,
and then everybody else got their hands in the pot, and they just started from there, and they
yeah. And
added and
again, it was wartime, right? And they didn't have the time to sit back and think hard about all this stuff and figure out who owns the patents and who gets the paychecks, right? They
correct.
needed vehicles as quickly as possible because we needed to win the war. And a lot of places you'll read that I think it was Eisenhower. Was it Eisenhower? Said that the Jeep was the most important weapon in World War
Mhm.
II,
Yep.
which wasn't even a weapon. It was a troop transport, essentially, right? But the versatility of the Jeep is legendary because of that. So, but yeah, you hear some stories, and I've seen footage of like the testing grounds where they were testing these things, and you see soldiers like bouncing out of the back of things, like crazy how unsafe they looked. But they got the job done. I mean, four soldiers could pick one up and carry it. If it got stuck, they would just get out and pick it up by the corners and carry it out of whatever it was
That's
stuck in.
hysterical.
They would airdrop them in crates. And
So I
in the crate was like all the tires and all the pieces, and they could just assemble them in the field. It was crazy.
Yeah, and there's that whole Jeep in a box, whole
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
um, which I'm told that all those Jeeps in a box were just shoved off the ships and they're in the ocean 'cause,
yep.
you know
That
the interesting thing too is
was that
some of
World
the
War II or was that after Vietnam? I know after Vietnam they had shoved a whole bunch
yeah,
of military
I'm
equipment just
not
off the side of
yep,
aircraft carriers because they were like, we're not taking them home.
and I think there's a bunch of them buried somewhere up in the Arctic somewhere. I heard that story too. I'll have to track that down.
Yeah,
Some of
possible.
the testing for the Jeeps in the during this whole time was at Camp Holabird in Maryland. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was gonna also ask you, does Bantam do they have, like, a little museum there where you could go, like, whenever you want?
So I'm not sure. I have to find out. I know that the Bantam Car Company was based there. That's really the whole reason
Right,
that they
in
hold it
Butler,
there.
PA, right.
But the buildings that used to be Bantam are basically being torn down at this point. They're no
Oh,
longer there. So,
uh-huh,
but I don't know if they have. I don't think they have an official museum. They set up sort of an impromptu museum in a garage, a large garage, more like a warehouse, that's on the premises for the festival, right? And that's where I
right.
got these pictures at. I shouldn't say pictures because I can't share them because I can't find them, but I do have a bunch of pictures. But that's where I saw them at, I should say. Um, so yeah, it's I don't know if they have actually a museum there. They should. I mean,
Right,
there must be something out there. I'm gonna have to look into it. We're going back again this year. I'm gonna have to look into whether there's a like a permanent museum, not just the one they set up for the event.
and who houses these Jeeps? Where do they go?
Well, that's the thing, right? If
Right,
I don't know if they're privately owned and they just bring them in for the event, or
right,
if they're owned by an organization and brought in for the event. But one way or the other, they get there. But they have some crazy like farm surplus vehicles there. They have some military ones. They have some of the fancier ones that were made to appeal to just like the average everyday owner, that weren't
right.
using them for off road or for farming. And remember when these things hit the civilian market, people weren't necessarily buying vehicles to off-road for fun like they do today. I'm sure some people were, but it wasn't the sport that it is now, right?
Right.
So they weren't really designed. They were designed as off-road vehicles for the war, and they were designed as off-road vehicles for the farm application. But all the other ones that came out were like, oh, let's make an ambulance. Oh, let's make a convertible that you can drive the kids around in. Oh, let's make a
Right.
cool car you can drive to church on Sunday, right?
Right.
So, there's a lot of really cool variations that weren't even four-wheel drive that were made by Willis Overland. So yeah, after the war, they went into the CJ, which was the civilian Jeep. I don't know if you had anything else to say about the war era. We've gone on about them
Yeah.
quite a bit.
I was just, when you were talking about that, I was gonna bring up Jeep. I think it was probably Kaiser Willys at the time. They're the ones who came out with the all steel station wagon. Remember back in the day they
Oh
had the
yeah,
wooden panels, so Jeep came out with that. So there's a lot of firsts for Jeep. Another little controversial thing is like, where did the name come from? Some people say it was GP
yeah,
for general purpose. Some people say it had something to do with Popeye and Eugene the Jeep or something like that.
yeah. I've heard that
So
too.
yeah,
I heard somebody said that like inexperienced soldiers were called Jeeps, and because the Jeep was new in the war, they called it that. Again, I
huh,
have no idea how to back that
right,
up, but I heard that somewhere.
right.
So
So there's just a lot of, and like people call it Willys Overland. Well, it's Willis. The guy who owned it was Willis Overland. So
I
there's
heard
debate.
somewhere that someone who studied this had found like people to talk to who remember when these things were actually like commercials
Oh, they
or
said Willys
on
Jeep.
the
Yeah.
radio. They would say Willys or Willis interchangeably
Yep.
because at the time spoken media wasn't as popular. It was mostly written, right? Like newspaper ads and whatever. And when you, as we know from reading stuff on the internet, when you read a thing, your brain interprets how it should be pronounced. So this
Correct.
just leads to a bunch of people pronouncing it incorrectly. So even the people doing the radio commercials and whatever probably didn't know how to pronounce it. So this has been forever.
I
So I
didn't
don't
even
know what
think
the
of
official
that.
is.
That's a good reason why they probably say Willys. And I know Jeep commercials from way back when, they said Willys Jeep.
Right.
And Jeep says you can say it however you want. So
Well,
the Willis Jeep just
Jeep
sounds
today
kind of
doesn't
weird.
care as much.
No,
Jeep
no.
today is just like buy more Wranglers, buy
Right,
more. Look, did you see the new ones? I don't care what you
right.
call the old ones. Look at the new ones.
So anyway, it would be so cool to kind of go back in time to see all this
It would
evolving.
be. It
I
would
just think
be.
it'd be fun.
I will say that the camp of it is absolutely pronounced Willis is a lot stronger than the camp that it is pronounced Willies.
Right.
So, or maybe they're just more passionate and outspoken. I'm not sure.
So, well, we're done a little early with our topic. Do you have any news for us today? Are we going to play our news? Do you have our news
Oh, I gotta
audio?
find the button. So,
Oh,
yeah.
we don't have
Hold on. Let me
to.
find it here.
We
No,
don't
it's
have to.
here. It's
I
here.
just
It's here. I gotta remember which button it is. It's this one. Remember this. It's the red button. Okay. So
red,
next time,
red,
if I can't find it, just tell me it's the red button.
red button. It's like we're going on a mission,
Yeah. It's totally,
a reconnaissance mission.
you have any idea how long this sound clip is? Like it goes to where you think it's over,
And then it starts again.
stops, and then it starts up again. Because that's how the intro to the show went. It's funny. Anyway, all right, that's enough of that.
So
Seriously, it goes on for like 3 minutes.
yeah, we don't need an open for 3 minutes. Okay, folks, now you can get up and go get your drink and
Yeah,
your
go
popcorn.
take a bio break while we listen
right.
to the intro to Get Smart.
Right.
All right, so let me get back to our episode guide. I think I had only one article link down here, and now I got to remember what it was. Oh, this one. Motor Trend did a review of the Tesla Cybertruck. What do,
Oh,
what do you think of the Cybertruck, Tammy?
I I mean, I really, really wanna drive it and see what it does. I'm, like, fascinated by each wheel, doing its own thing. I
It
just think it would
also, I didn't
be
know this. It has
fascinating.
rear steer too. Is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about? It has rear
Yeah,
steer.
like, doesn't isn't there a motor on each wheel,
There could be.
right?
I didn't I didn't look that deeply into
I
it, but
think that's how they work, I think. Don't quote
yeah.
me.
So there's a now. First of all, when I saw Motor Trend reviewing this, the first thing I really hoped I was going to get out of this was a Fred Williams review of the Cybertruck. But I don't know if Fred Williams is even associated with Motor Trend now since the end of the Dirt Every Day show.
Right.
But it's unfortunately not. It's this other guy. What's his name? Jason Goodman. Is that the guy's name? Or is that just the guy that wrote the article? There's a video here with this younger guy with a mustache and very nice hair, reviewing the Cybertruck, and he's like all about the Cybertruck. He loves the way it looks, and he loves what Tesla's doing, and he loves all the everything about the Cybertruck. But however, he does go into some of the problems he had with the one that he was able to test drive, and some of those are, and maybe you've heard about this if you followed anything about the Cybertruck, the panels on the outside. I think they are, and I could be wrong about this, I believe they are polished stainless steel,
Yes, I've heard this, but I don't know if that's true. But
which,
about the rust?
well, yes, there's two things. One is people say they scuff and fingerprint and smudge very easily, which drives people who want their car to look beautiful crazy.
Right.
But that's sort of less important to the why does stainless steel rust? Stainless steel is supposed to be rust resistant. So why are Cybertruck panels rusting? Now he does address that. He says that, he didn't have this one for long, but he did his best to not take care of the exterior panels just to see how bad they would get. And he said he didn't have any rust problems. The smudging was definitely a thing that
Right.
bothered him. He said it really shows up on the finish. And I guess the fact that it only comes in one color, kind of like the DeLorean, it might annoy people, but whatever. He also went into the bed area. Like, it's called the Cybertruck, but every picture I've seen of it, it looks more like a
It looks
cyber
like
station wagon.
it does. It does.
It's because it has this retractable tonneau cover over the back. There is actually a bed under it.
Oh,
But he said
interesting.
if you open the tonneau cover and drive, it ridiculously lowers the range because the
Huh.
aerodynamics are messed up.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
if you've ever driven a pickup truck, that bed area, if there's no tonneau over it, is like a vacuum, right? And when you're driving, it just basically causes drag on the vehicle. So that's why they had to cover that up on the Cybertruck, not just for keeping your stuff dry in the back and whatever, but because they had to do it in order to get the range out of the thing. So yeah, he said you open that up and it's just like it really limits your range. And he said that he didn't like the build quality of the tonneau either. He thought that it would not be, it would be a thing that'd be a pain in the butt to maintain and keep functioning over the years. He in his prediction, it was something like, I want to see what these work. I want to see how well these work in 10 years, right? If you own
Right.
this thing for 10 years. Now your battery pack will probably be dead in 10 years anyway, so it won't matter.
They aren't supposed to last that long, which what are you gonna
Yeah,
do
well,
with all these batteries?
I had a friend with a Prius, and he bought a Prius used. This is back when the Prius was still like the thing, the hybrid electric vehicle. And he said one of the big things you have to look for in buying a used Prius at the time was when they get around 100,000 miles, the batteries start to die, and if you replace them, they're like $4,000. So for a vehicle like a Prius, $4,000 to put into it is not worth it.
No, that's
Now
crazy.
that was 20 years ago. I don't know what battery
Yeah.
life in these things is like today, but I got to imagine batteries generally have a lifespan. And
Right.
what does replacing them look like? What does it cost? Does Tesla cover that? I have no idea. I've never looked into it. But the other thing I noticed when I was watching the video, he didn't actually say this, but it sounds like the tailgate doesn't open. And if you look at pictures of the rear of this thing, you see there's no seams at the tail. Oh, no, there is a picture right there of the tailgate open. It's just that the seams go all the way to the edge. Never mind. I stand corrected.
So, there is a video of it off-roading, and it was I mean, by our standards, it wasn't really that hard, but it was trying to climb up an incline. And it's almost like you could see the car thinking as
Yeah.
the wheels are spinning and as it's
Hmm.
trying to climb up. I just think it would be so fascinating. Hashtag Elon Musk. Maybe you can send me a Cybertruck and we could do a review.
There you
Send one
go.
to Nate. He can review it there in
There you go.
the East, and I'll
I'll
review it here in the West.
I'll figure out what it would be like to swap a Dana 60 into the front of a Cybertruck.
I think it'd be interesting to try to see how it would maneuver through the trees.
Yeah, right.
It just
This
looks very cumbersome.
this review, one of the things that he did in the video was take it off road, and I don't just mean gravel roads. He took it through this little ravine thing that
Uh-huh.
was like a washout where it definitely had to work. It off roads like a plank of wood, though.
Oh, I'm
It's
sure.
just like rah, oof, oof. Like, have you ever seen the videos of the new Cherokees and like the Renegades off road?
Uh-huh.
Jeep Renegade, how they don't really have suspension travel so much as the body is just like the whole body will
Right.
move back and forth. That's kind of how this thing off roads, right? He said it did the job, but he said he I forget exactly how he worded it. It sounded like he wouldn't off road in this thing frequently. He said it's capable, but not like an off road vehicle. So he also likes the styling. What do you think of the styling? I think it's ugly as hell.
Oh, I do too, but it's so unique. I think
It is unique.
it would be cool to have because it's the Cybertruck and people are like, "Oh, look,
Yeah,
she's got
like
the Cybertruck." But
if somebody gave me a Cybertruck, I'd
right.
probably
Yes.
enjoy owning and driving it. I would not buy
I
one.
not
Aren't they
no.
like 100 grand or
Oh
something?
yeah, it's way beyond my pocketbook could
Yeah.
handle.
So, and again, right? This is kind of like in a new era of vehicles. He also compared it to things like the Rivian and I think the Ford Lightning, and about how the Rivian and the Ford Lightning took a very traditional pickup truck approach to an electric pickup truck.
Right.
Because think about pickup trucks in the past, I don't know, 100 years, they haven't really changed much. And there's a reason for that. The design of the classic pickup truck works.
And people love it.
Yeah,
People love
right.
their trucks. Yeah.
So the fact that Tesla took their usual approach to it, which is to scrap everything and design it themselves, he was a little worried about that. But again, right? So that's part of his mindset as he came into the review. So I recommend watching it because he has some interesting points. Even though he starts it off like he's a complete Cybertruck fanboy, he does have some critical points that he covers, and I like that about pretty much anyone who covers anything.
Right.
You can't
Not
just gush about
everything's
the thing and then be like, "Oh yeah,
perfect.
it's totally
Yeah.
unbiased review." Well,
Right.
he definitely covers it like you'd expect a car magazine to cover. So, but yeah, it's good stuff.
So I went through my news. I get updates, and I did find one I just want to bring up. The Toyota Crown has an off-road trim package.
What is a
I
Toyota
mean,
Crown? Let me look this
it.
up.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can.
Oh, it's a car. It's
Yes.
a 4-door sedan.
Yes. And I'm like, what in the world? Um, it just when you thought Toyota's jacked up Crown couldn't get any weirder, here comes the landscape. It's in the Japanese market. It's not here. It's sold as the Crown
Yeah,
crossover. It's targeted for outdoorsy people. Okay, but it's a luxury
you know,
type vehicle. I don't
there's
understand what's going on with all this luxury off-road.
there is a whole so when I was getting into the sport, off-roading was a thing that was done for a mostly for a purpose. In fact, I remember when I was learning to drive, my dad had a big Chevy pickup truck, and he knew that the vehicle I wanted to buy was likely going to be a 4x4. So he made it a point to tell me like you should never be off-roading just because you want to off-road. You should never just do it for fun. You should always do it for a purpose because it can be unsafe and you can get your
Right.
vehicle stuck and you can damage things. And then of course I got my first off-road vehicle and probably within a month of buying it, I'm out on trails that I probably
Just for
wasn't supposed to
fun.
be on, just for fun, because
Right.
dad told me not to. But so that's kind of like the mindset that the generation before us had. I'm sure there were people out there that were absolutely out there off-roading for fun. But that has changed so much since then. There's so many different facets of this sport, so many different lifestyles that, like, you could almost stereotype the quote unquote off-roader back when I got into it. They were generally outdoorsy people. They were people that maybe didn't have a ton of money and they just went out to enjoy the outdoors. They were probably people that like to hunt and fish or camp. They were already outdoorsy people. Nowadays, it's like, oh, I went and bought a Jeep, or I went and bought a Toyota, or I went and bought a insert off-road vehicle here, and they told me I could take it off-road at the showroom. So I'm going to go take it off-road. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
Right. So cars like this,
Here,
you
and I'll
said this is
show
more of
you.
a luxury vehicle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There's a picture of it. They're just for a different type of off-roader than we're used
Yeah.
to, I think, is the whole point. That whole diatribe was about.
And it has mud flaps. You can't have those kind of mud flaps when you're off-roading, or you'll tear them right off your.
Right. But this isn't made to go through Rock Creek.
Right.
This isn't made to go trouncing around Slant Hollow. This is made
For forest
for,
roads going to a campsite.
right, like unimproved roads that are slightly worse than you would want to take your little two-wheel drive commuter car on, but not to the level that we're looking to go out and wheel,
And that's what I think you got to keep in mind is off-roading and overlanding mean different things to different people.
Right.
Because there are a lot of mountain roads in the Telluride, Colorado area, the Ouray area, where that car would probably just do fine. They're old coal mining roads, and they're just
You know what?
gravel roads with maybe some ruts in them.
I would argue that this vehicle could probably do greens in an off-road park here
Uh-huh.
on the East Coast too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know
Probably.
what the ground clearance is. I didn't read through it to see if it tells me, but it looks like it has enough ground clearance to do more than just access roads, right?
Right. I don't see but yeah.
And to be honest, if someone showed up looking to learn how to off-road in this thing, I would do my best to help them learn how.
Yeah.
I'm not going to turn them away. I'd probably be worried that they're going to try to sue me if they dent the
Right.
or something, but
Right. I'm trying to see if it says about it'd be interesting to see what the ground clearance is. I can't, it doesn't have it in here. But
yeah,
I'm sure
I mean,
we can find out. But
it
anyway,
is an odd-looking vehicle. I'll say that.
yeah, I just find it interesting how all these companies are coming out with their off-road vehicles. It's just kind of maybe it's the direction
Well,
they're going. Maybe they're more
if
luxury campers.
if you step back for a second and think about the big picture, right? Vehicles like pickups, vehicles like the Jeep, vehicles like the Land Rover, the Range Rover, they're like these big, boxy, inefficient vehicles, right? They don't get good fuel economy.
Right.
They're generally not as comfortable to drive, right? So, or not as comfortable to ride in, I should say. So, and then there's this sort of global movement to try to improve our carbon emissions and whatever, right? So I think it has a lot of auto companies thinking outside of the box. Like if you were to go back 30 years and say, build me an off-road vehicle, you'd get something that looks like a pickup truck or a Jeep or an SUV, right? If you ask people to do that today, they're going to try to apply this new mindset of, I need an efficient vehicle that can also go off-road. And then you get stuff like this, right?
And
you
that
get
will
stuff
appeal to the comfort that people expect in a vehicle.
Right. So I'm not saying that things like pickups and Jeep Wranglers are going to die off in our lifetime, but I think if you were to fast forward 200 years, you're going to see a lot less big boxy pickups and a lot more things like this out on the trails.
Hovercrafts.
I won't be here to see it. Well, who wants to off-road in a hovercraft? It just floats over everything.
You won't
flying cars.
You won't get
flying
stuck.
Cars.
You won't get stuck on the rock. You won't need winches anymore.
Yeah, right. Just hover over it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to watch how our world is changing and we don't realize some things so
Videos
small.
videos looked it up for us. The Crown has 5.8 inches of ground clearance. It looks
Oh,
like more in this picture. He
yeah.
says the Toyota Camry has 5.7. So I guess it doesn't have the clearance that it looks like.
How do I get
So
back to the chat room? Oh, here it is. I'm still trying to figure out. I missed all these messages.
yeah,
Sorry.
there was lots of chat today. I wasn't able to respond to a ton of
Yeah,
it, but a lot of it was just confirming stuff we were saying. So thank you to
I
folks that
was
confirmed.
just trying to make sure I got all those pictures in today. So anyway, put the Terry Gillette's Jeep Rescue League on your bucket list. Put the Military Vehicle Museum in Du Bois, Wyoming on your bucket list.
The
If you
Bantam
head out
Heritage Jeep
west,
Festival.
yeah, and the
Don't
Bantam
forget
Jeep
that.
Festival, yes.
If anybody's going to that this year, I'll be there with my family again as usual, like I have been the last 2 years. I don't know if we're gonna make this like the rest of our lives every year thing, but we definitely enjoy it. So until we stop enjoying it, we're probably gonna go every year. So if you're going, reach out. Maybe we can say hi, get a beer or
That
something.
Yeah, that's one thing I wish I would have done while I was still out there, but I still can.
Make a
Maybe one day I'll make a trip. My kids are out of school, so I don't have to worry about the last weekend of school, so
make a trip out here, a
yeah,
road trip.
and then I can
I
go.
mean, it's like a whole 6 hours closer to you than I
Right,
am. So it's
right.
cuts that much off your drive.
Yep, so
Maybe get that engine fixed
maybe
before you
yeah,
drive it out here.
yeah, the engine's gotta be fixed first, or I trade it in.
I
I don't
still
know.
think I still think we got to get Tammy into a TJ.
Yeah, I keep going back and forth. I haven't decided yet. I just
Graduate from the big
yeah,
bulky
the big
soccer mom vehicle.
boxy yeah. I'm gonna sneeze here. I'm
The
gonna mute myself.
okay. The amount of hate that the JK got when it came out, the four-door JK. That was the other thing we could have gone into with the history of Jeep. We could have gone into all the model years and everything and how things changed. Maybe we'll do that in another episode if people want to hear it.
There's
But
so many. Back in the early days, there's so many. You got the DJ and the CJ and the
yep,
TJ and the LJ and
yep.
even, the all the Jeep trucks and
Oh yeah.
there's so many.
Yep. Yep. And
So many.
all the history that went around them, right? Like
Yes.
I've been talking to a friend of my father-in-law's. My father used to be a truck driver, so he's got a bunch of acquaintances from trucking that aren't necessarily close by, but he keeps in touch with them just because he's that kind of guy. And one of them, his father recently passed away, and they're going through his estate, and they realized that he still had this CJ5 that they had when he was a kid,
Wow.
and he's looking at it, and he notices this emblem on the hood that says Tuxedo Park. Tuxedo Park was a special edition CJ5 and CJ6 that today, if you can get one in decent shape, is actually worth a decent amount of money for a 40, 50-year-old vehicle. They were made in the early 60s, and it was basically a CJ5 with some chrome trim package and stuff. But he's been chatting with me a bunch. He's like, I need to verify what this is, and I need to verify if it is what this emblem says. And so I've been digging a whole bunch with another friend of mine who's more into classic Jeeps about like how do we truly identify what this thing is, and then how do we go about figuring out what the heck it's worth? Because you can't just
Right.
go to Auto Trader, you can't just go to KBB and say what's my 1962, CJ5 worth. So yeah, it's crazy when you start digging into the history of these vehicles, and there were so many of these little badge packages that people are like, oh yeah, I want that one. It's like, it's just a chrome bumper, right? I don't
Right.
care. I want that one.
So I have a website here. I remember finding it when I was in Colorado. I'm going to put it in the show notes, in the news section, but it's called, hang on, the Willys, KaiserWillys.com, and it's the Willys Jeep serial number decoder.
Yep.
And that,
Yeah,
yeah,
my friend has a couple of classic Jeeps that he's sort of accumulated and he's trying to rebuild. So he has like books about it, and he was
yeah,
paging through those. Similar, right? Where you can decode the
right.
serial numbers, and if it has a VIN, you can decode the VIN, which That's the other weird thing about this. It has both a VIN and a serial number, and we're like,
Huh.
it's kind of not supposed to have both. Why does it have both?
Right. And some of them have the placards, which you
Yeah,
could remove.
that's what this
So
has. It has a placard on the
right.
dash that has a serial number on it. I think
Who
it's on the
knows?
dash. Maybe it's on the
Yeah.
firewall. But it matches the emblem that's on the hood. So did someone swap the hood and the placard? Why would you do that?
Right.
You know? So I don't know. I'm trying to help him figure it out. We'll see what it comes out to.
But that's not going to tell you how much it's worth, that website.
No, that'll
That's
just identify what it is. And once we know what it is, then he's going to have to figure out, how do I figure out what it's worth?
right.
And I guarantee, right, it's not going to be in pristine shape. He might get more than a CJ5 for it, but he's not going
Right.
to get hundreds of thousands of dollars. So anyway,
All right.
my little story for the week: Tuxedo Park CJ5.
So don't forget to check out our show notes for all the links that we
Yeah.
have that we mentioned today. I'll get a link for that museum and maybe the Bantam information. We'll put that in there as well. But you can find us at offroadinsiders.com and on all the social media sites. And please share with your friends. Let them know that we're here so they can
Yep.
listen to us.
So Video's just had a quick question. He wants to know, where does one
Oh.
find the show notes? The show notes, I add them to our website when so first of all, the website, you'll find them on offroadinsiders.com, and the podcast, if you go download the podcast, it'll be included as the show notes there. I need to get better about making sure I include them in the YouTube video too.
Description. Oh,
So I
yeah.
was doing that for a while, but then Tammy took over doing the
well, I can
chapter markers. So now
do that.
yeah.
I'll do
So if you
that.
want to include that, that'd be a good idea.
Yep. I will do that. I will put the show notes in the YouTube description.
So there you go.
I just got a new job. Woo woo. Do I get a raise?
New job for Tammy. Yep. Your salary has gone from 0 to 0.
100% raise.
100% raise.
So exciting. So exciting.
So anyway, this has been fun going down the history of the early military Jeeps and a little bit on the CJs. So good stuff. Yeah. Tammy, you already covered where people could find us.
Yep.
I think we're done. I think
that's it, folks.
I think you can go take some allergy medicine and take a nap if you need to.
Go blow my nose.
And I can go edit a show.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Let me find the button. All right, folks. Everybody have a great one. We'll go back to Mondays for our next show. Yeah, I think that's all we have to say. We don't know what our next show is going to be about yet. We'll figure that out.
Maybe we could do the history of off-roading.
Yes, the Serenity poster is back, only because I didn't switch. All right, folks. We'll talk to you next time.